Here's how to make a facade in SketchUp. This one I made using a less desirable picture, but it will work. Try to get one that's forward facing. You'll also want to use elements like components. You can scale them really easily and move them and copy and paste them. Go over to the 3D warehouse to find some of these. Just beware that not all of them are perfect and not all of them are really good for your model. You can download them straight into your model from here. Just be aware that you may need to make some adjustments. In this particular one, if you double click on it a couple times, you'll see that there are a couple different components embedded in one. You'll have to double click again to go in and make any sort of adjustments. I made my own over here. This window works in a lot of circumstances. Make sure to make it unique if you only want one of your components to be a different size than all the rest. Here's how to build the facade. Start with a basic rectangle. It doesn't really matter what the shape is. Position in your front, and then go to Insert and find a picture that you've downloaded from the internet or taken yourself. Insert it as an image. It'll sort of glue to your cursor. Glue it to that surface by clicking once, dragging up, and clicking again. Now you want to bring on with the tape measure. It's the hotkey T. And basically just mark off the different proportions. Here you'll see I'm marking off the tops and bottoms of the windows and the doorway in order to get the spacing right. This helps me also get the proportions correct. Now that I have all these lines dragged out, I'm going to make a new rectangle off on the right, and this is going to be my facade. You could drag the ridge of the roof up, in this instance, the way you did the outhouse, but it would be too tall, wouldn't it? You can see the peak of the roof is lower than that. So alternately, you can just carve away because you have the lines for where the gutters are and where the ridge of the roof is. So just go up to your midpoint, if you're doing a roof like this, and use the push-pull tool to get rid of all the excess. Now, I pre-made my window off on the left, and it took a little bit of work, but it was worth it because I didn't have to make more than one. And I already made it a component. So that took about 10 minutes to make that window. But now I copy and paste it, and I'm going to put it right where it belongs. I'm going to use the scale tool again, and then I'm going to orbit and pan into position where I can scale it and move it so it's not stuck inside of the facade. Sometimes you have to orbit into a position that makes sense for it to come out. Sometimes you may need to make some other adjustments. Just double click with the selection tool, and that will allow you to edit your component. Okay, that one looks good. With the selection tool, I'm going to copy and paste it and move it into position. I'm going to navigate to a spot that makes sense so I can move it using the Move tool, hotkey M. And you can even copy multiples by holding the Shift and selecting more than one object, copying and pasting. And that allows me to get the proportions right. Then you can start to dissect your model a little bit more. You'll see how I pulled out the rake and the eaves on the building. Last thing, the chimney. Why not just make it off to the side and make it a component? Anytime you have objects that are going to be too hard to do on the surface, just make them off to the side and make them a component. It'll save you a lot of time and misery. In this case, I made a mistake. When I selected it to make the component, you'll see that I selected some of the tape measure lines. Watch what happens. That's weird. Just undo it, select the tape measure lines and delete them, and make it a component again. Now just orbit into position and put it where it belongs. There's going to be a lot of circumstances where you need to make a component and you need to model outside of your actual model and bring those elements in. Remember, your goal is to get the proportions and the scale accurate to the original. I'm using this old 19th century illustration to make my facade, but I'm deleting it afterwards, and I'm going to zoom into a position that makes sense to show my finished result. Good luck with the project.